What is up, guys? Peacock here. I mean PK, not meant PK, not Peacock. Anyways, what is up, guys? PK here, and in today's video, I want to talk about Arcana. Now, I legitimately had a fully made guide ready, and then the new PTR hit, which of course showcased that all my numbers were gonna get changed. But I decided, you know what, I don't want to release a really complex guide only to have it be wrong like a few days later. And so here we are. I've ran the new numbers. Probably gonna do a jewel crafting guide next after this, which should be coming up soon. I've done a lot of prep for it, so it's almost ready to be recorded. And yeah, so that's what's coming up. But today we're going to talk about Arcana. Let's hop on over to the Arcana station. Now, first things first, let's talk about what is Arcana, what's it good for, what's the point. Now, prior to this new update, Arcana wasn't that useful as far as weapons go, because it didn't have a third material that you could put in order to pump up the gear score to 600, but it does now. So what Arcana is good for is twofold: weapons and potions. Now, the weapon part, we're not gonna be using that for our leveling, because that would be extremely expensive because it requires metals. However, the point of getting 200 Arcana, at least part of it, is so that you're able to craft these high tier fire staffs, life staffs, void gauntlets, and ice gauntlets. So essentially all of the magical weapons are created here. And if you want to craft a 600 gear score legendary, or just, you know, one of these specific ones here, they obviously have different recipes. And I believe now, I don't know if the life crystal core is going to drop, but I know at least, I feel like I heard that the bowstring can now drop for crafting like specific named legendaries for the bow, although that's obviously engineering. But just if you want to craft like orichalcum life staffs, orichalcum void gauntlets here, you can see, you need leather, phoenix weave, asmodium, and death quintessence. In order to get that gear score all the way up, and of course your trophies, your foods, all the usual, right? But that's one part of it, but we're not going to be focusing on that for our leveling. We're pretty much not going to be using any of the weapons, although I'll mention really briefly that if you want to craft something like a life staff, make sure that you pick one of the specific ones so that you can apply focus here for free and still put in one of your perks. That's pretty important. But anyways, as far as leveling goes, we're going to be focusing on the potions. But let's just first talk real quick about the changes that have been made and what the different potions are good for. First, you have your base ingredients called alkahest. Now, they come in 5 different tiers depending on the tier of potion that you're trying to make. They use 2 Hyssop more each, and then you have the final step, which then also adds an Azoth water. Now, this is sort of your potion base for most potion types. Health pots and mana pots, they're pretty self-explanatory. Then we have regeneration pots, that's like a combination of the two, gives you a bit of both. Then we have focus potions, those are sort of a different type of mana pot that instead increases your mana regeneration over a 1 minute period, as opposed to giving you an instant burst. Then we have encumbrance potions, that essentially a potion that allows you to carry more stuff for a short period of time. They're not super useful, but they can be once in a while. Primarily what you're going to be using them for, because they only last for, I believe, 2 minutes. So primarily what this is good for is if you have some extra stuff that you want to teleport with, that's where this can be useful, right? Because it puts you out of encumbered, and so you can then activate your teleport, use your recall, so that's pretty much what that's good for. Then we have weapon coatings. Now, weapon coatings all use oil. Most of them are not that useful in the current meta. You're primarily going to be using powerful Ancient Earth and powerful, corrupted coatings. Those are the 2 primary ones you're going to be using. Mostly these are good for things like arenas, or possibly even for certain dungeons, like Garden of Genesis or Lazarus. If your damage type is ineffective versus that type of minion, then it can be a good sort of supplement. But in particular for certain arenas, like the one in Eden Grove, for which you would be using Angry Earth coatings, it has a DPS check. The boss heals an insane amount, so if you don't have your DPS straight, then you're gonna fail, right? And so this gives a bonus of, I believe, 15% for 40 minutes. You need 1 potion per weapon, so if you take out a weapon, activate the potion, that applies it to that weapon. You can then switch to your other weapon and switch back, and then it would still be active on your other weapon, right? But you would need 2 potions if you want to apply it to both your weapons to get that maximum damage output. So that's pretty much what weapon coatings are used for. Also, you could use some of the corrupted ones for invasions and stuff like that, but that's a bit, you know, not that common. Then we have tinctures. Now, tinctures are a defensive type of potion that removes blight or corruption. Then you have absorption potions, which essentially gives you some damage protection versus all the different elemental things. Again, they're not that commonly used currently. Mostly what you're going to be seeing here is, again, the infused corruption tincture, possibly the infused blight tincture, although it doesn't really do much more than like the low tier ones, so they're not that important in the current meta. Hopefully they're going to do more with that in some of the upcoming dungeons. But essentially these just give you, you know, absorption versus different damage types, or they remove blight or corruption. Lastly, we have elemental infusions, which we'll go into way more detail in the upcoming jewel crafting guide, because you sort of have a trifecta of stone cutting, arcana, and jewel crafting. All three are needed for jewel crafting, so we're going to talk way more about that. But really, this is mostly going to be like an XP supplement that you use as you see fit, depending on what you need in stone cutting and such, right? So that's all of the potion types for you. So as far as leveling goes, start off with weak health potions. That used to be just one Hyssop and one water. Now instead it's one weak alkahest and a medicinal regent, of which there are many different types. You want to use the lowest, the cheapest available one. Realistically, you're going to need buy orders to get your arcana all the way up. That is the way to go about it. It doesn't have to be crazy expensive, but you have to be smart about it. Now I'll let you know what I mean momentarily, but let's first go through the different tiers. So you're going to be needing to craft, first of all, to get level 1, you're going to need to craft 14 weak alkahest and 13 weak health pots, or weak health mana potions. But I suggest sticking to health pots because mana pots are pretty much worthless on the market, so unless you need them yourself, craft health potions over mana potions. Okay? So that's a total of 14 weak alkahest and 13 health pots. That's going to get you to level 1, at which point we're going to start craft common alkahests and common health pots, possibly supplement with common regeneration and common focus potions. Again, you want to stick 90% of the potions you craft are going to be health pots, right? But you're going to find yourself in a situation at some point in this leveling stage where you just want to craft whatever you can with whatever extra regions you have lying around. The only two things that I want to tell you that you absolutely want to avoid using, okay, is gleaming lodestones and loamy lodestones and gleaming lodestones. Avoid those because you need those for high tier stone cutting in order to craft dungeon keys, so avoid those two, loaming lodestones and gleaming lodestones. But with those two exceptions, pretty much craft whatever you can in the tier you're at, right? Even in the lower tiers if you have to, but most of the lower tiers are going to be a waste with the new system here, whereas before you were sort of forced to craft lower tier potions because of the tier 4 regions being so rare. But starting out, that's the health pots. Then we get to the common health potions here, right? So you need to craft 301 tier 2 potions to get your way up to 50, okay? That's the equivalent of 1,204 Hyssop that you need to either farm or purchase, okay? Then we get to 50. From 50 to 100, you need to craft 863 strong alkahest and then tier 3 potions, okay? 863. So that's equivalent to 5,178 Hyssop. As you can see here, the good thing about the new system is that you actually don't need high tier regions to craft high tier potions, right? So high tier regions now are really only about additional chance to craft, which is irrelevant for this. Irrelevant, completely irrelevant. So you want to use as cheap materials as you possibly are allowed to get away with, right? So always make sure to set it down to the lowest tier. Before, you had a forced regent of a certain tier, but that is now the alkahest, right? So in a sense, even though you need to craft way more potions now, I would actually say that it's actually easier. Might even be cheaper as well. So try to stick to Bull Rush, all of your tier 1 regions, and look for buy orders. Look on your server, which ones are the cheapest on your server, and then put in a buy orders of, I would say, 500 at a time. Now the reason I say 500 at a time is because when people put in like buy orders for 3,000 of something, right? Really what happens is you purchase a few hundred, then you get undercut, then you might again buy a few more hundred, but then you're gonna get undercut again, and nothing really happens. So what I used to do is to put in buy orders for like 500 or 600, actually let those buy orders go all the way through, craft my potions, put in a new buy order. And preferably you want to have several different buy orders on several different of the cheaper regions. But now we're moving up to 100. In order to get from 100 to 150, you need to craft 1,378 powerful alkahasts and 1,378 tier 4 potions. That's equivalent to 11,024 Hyssop, right? So you're gonna need a lot of Hyssop. And finally, once you get to 150, that's where you can finally start to craft useful things that you can actually sell. I haven't checked the prices after this change, so actually this might be wrong, but I've made loads of gold selling infused health pots and infused regeneration pots. Now, another reason why you want to stick to health pots is that infused regeneration potions, they cost 0.7 gold a piece to craft. Health pots are free, so are mana pots, right? But all the other potions, they have a cost that is not associated with the health pots. Health pots and mana pots are always free to craft. That's another advantage of sticking to those. And you're gonna need to craft 2,423 infused health potions, which is equivalent to 24,230 Hyssop, and 2,423 Azoth water. Now, of course, Azoth water, you wanna farm in reed water. It is the single best location for Azoth water farming. Now, as far as buy orders go, right, the first thing you want to do is when you get to a certain tier, right, look at the different materials that are required and look at the category of material. That's really important, right? So let's say we're at the strong tier here, right? Okay, for for health pots, medicinal reagents. That is a category of reagents that you can look up on the market, right? As opposed to if you go to weapon codex, for example, strong lust, that's an offensive reagent, right? Tinctures, that is a protective reagent, right? So you have different types of regions that you can look up by category, and you want to look for the cheapest one. And you'd be surprised, like, sure, I leveled up before this change had been implemented, but let me give you an example here. There was a time when I was crafting tier 5 potions, right? And I found out that on my server, Dragonfish Jaws, a tier 5 spirit reagent, sold for less gold a piece than a soul spot stem. Yep. I don't know if people didn't know what they were for or like why. I wasn't sure because they were actually usable as opposed to some of the new regions that have been introduced that weren't usable before. These were actually, you could actually use them, right? So I bought a fuck ton of Dragonfish Jaws. Now that's unlikely to be the case now on your server, but just to give you an example, right? So look up the type of region that you need. Most likely it's going to be medicinal regions. And so you go to the market here, click under resources, potion reagents, magical here, offensive, protective, medicinal, right? You can even see what like alkahast and such sells for. That's actually curious. There's only one up. Again, the price of his soup is most likely a little bit inflated right now. I think, maybe not actually. Someone actually, yeah, 10,000. Someone did it. They collected 10,000 his soup. I love that. That's glorious. That's 3,500 gold. That's been a good investment. I bet you that guy bought 10,000 for 0.01 gold a piece. But in any case, right? Look through all of these different reagents. Now this one has also like skyrocketed in price. It was pretty much worth nothing before. Look through all of the medicinal reagents. Find the cheapest one. Use that, right? And the same goes for all of the other different potion regions. Again, if one ingredient is too expensive, go look for another one. Go look, maybe you got some oil lying around, right? Maybe Rivercrest here, boom, 0.16, right? So it might be cheaper to craft different potion types depending on the prices on your server at any one time. So that is really important, but put in buy orders for multiple different ones. That's going to be the quickest and easiest way to get it to 200. Now, of course, once you get 200, or actually 150, once you get to 150, that's when you can start benefiting, right? It's just really practical to always have like all the health pots you need, right? And then you can sell the excess. Usually what I would do is I would craft like 300, 400, sometimes even as much as 800 health pots. I'd keep 100, sell the rest. Do the same with infused regeneration potions. Keep 100, sell the rest. Which is really, really useful. And of course, at some point you reach 200. And when you reach 200, the idea here is that then you're going to be able to do as such. Then, of course, I haven't got the Arcana set gear on right now. But essentially, you need the food, you need the 3 trophies at max, And as always, you need the full gear set, and that's going to allow you to craft a 595 to 600 gear score life staff, void gauntlet, ice gauntlet, fire staff, right? And always make sure, again, that you check for whether it can be worth it to craft some of the specific ones down here from Lazarus or Garden of Genesis. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But anyways, that is a lot of potions. So let's talk a little bit about the grand total. Le grande total. Put things a little bit into perspective. All in all, you're gonna be crafting almost 10,000 items, almost 5,000 potions. You're obtaining 5.7 million XP. You're gonna need 41,664 Hyssop, 5,000 water almost, 2,423 Azoth water, nearly 5,000 medicinal regions, 4,664 earth regions, and 3,801 spirit regions, aka soul modes and earth modes, or whichever you can find that might be cheaper on your server. Keep that in mind, because modes have several other uses that the tier 2 regions don't, so quite often they're going to be cheaper. So make sure you look through all of them on your server to find the cheapest price. But there's no getting around the fact that we need 41,664 Hyssop. Now that's a lot of herbs. So what is a man to do if a man doesn't want to purchase 41,000 Hyssop? Well, I don't know if you knew this, but there's herbs in pretty much every zone in the game. I think with the exception of Great Cleave and Shattered Mountain. Seem to recall even seeing it there, but maybe I've been crazy. I'm not 100% on that, or whether the map isn't updated. I assume it's updated, so let's just say there's no herbs up there. But there's one place in particular with a density unlike anywhere else. You can see this is decent. There's a lot of herbs in Cutlass Keys, but check out this area in the northern Ebonscale Reach. Now that is a herb density far greater than you're gonna find anywhere else on the map. There's herbs literally everywhere. Herbs here, herbs here. They're literally all over the place. This entire area is filled up with herbs, as you can see on the map. So this is gonna be your best area to farm Hyssop. It also has the advantage of having a shrine right next door. So this is a really good place for your herb farming. I'd suggest that you probably also pop a proficiency booster. It's not the only good location, but it is one of the better ones, despite there being sort of, they're not always in dense clusters as such, but there's just more herbs here than you're gonna find pretty much anywhere else on the map. So great place, also good for ginger. Of course, as far as Azoth water goes, for all of the high tier after 150, for the highest tiers of potions infused, you're gonna need a lot of Azoth water, which you can find in Azoth Springs. Make sure to always use a proficiency booster here as well. A lot of this on the right side, northern right side, is often uncontested. You can run down there from Restless Shore, take a route here where you clear all of this first. And there's a little neat area here with a decent density. And then of course this whole area around the Siren Stand. But all in all, that's where you're going to be farming your Azoth water. And then of course we have the spirit regions, the earth regions, and the medicinal regions. Now the medicinal regions is pretty much fungus, okay? Now there are obviously different types of fungus, and not all of them have the primary reagent of a medicinal region, but they all drop glowing mushroom caps, which is a tier 2 medicinal region. And then you have things like warm plate caps, they're also a medicinal region. Cap Tangle Wisp, that's a medicinal region. Bumble Blossom, that's a medicinal region. So there's plenty of medicinal regions that you can simply pick up in mushrooms. Then we have the spirit and earth regions. Now there is actually a spot in particular that is slightly better than the other. Let's just remove all of these and go for earth, boom, 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 and soul, boom, boom, boom. Soul mode is the spirit region. So you're going to need a lot of earth regions. And you can see here, there's a decent area in Windsward, decent area here in Monarch's Bluff, and in this whole area around Everfall, you're going to find both varieties. Then you have an area all the way up here in Eden Grove. Now, as you can see here, there's loads of earth shell turtles. Now this used to not be so good, because the drop rate of the actual turtle region, of which you would only get one, used to be way higher. So this is actually going to be better for earth modes now than it used to be. But again, plenty of places. You can see here, earth cracks. There's plenty of different places you can find these, and of course, use buy orders to supplement. Anyways, that's pretty much all I had for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions or suggestions, or feel like I said something that was completely wrong, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I read 100% of my comments. So feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think. We got a jewel crafting guide coming up next, as well as a couple of potential build guides that I've been working on as well. I don't know if we're going to do furnishing or engineering first after that. Might also do a little bit of an update on the armoring guide, since that's obviously inaccurate now. So I've just been waiting so long for this update so that I could finally pump out a bunch of video guides. Now, yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. And as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.